Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another malicious compliance Reddit video. In our first story, my psycho manager tells me to just make do. Okay, I can do that. Let's jump right in. The names in this story are fabricated, you know the drill. A few years back, I wanted a change of scenery in terms of my job. I was working at a housing agency, but somehow just lost interest by the end. I had always had a passion for wine on a personal level, and I felt like taking the jump into the business side of it. I got a scheduled interview at a gourmet shop with a great wine selection, and where I'd previously shopped before. I was greeted by the newly hired manager who, for a lack of better words, looked like a military sergeant, buzz cut and a dead serious look in his eyes. I'll refer to him as Boss. He seemed truly friendly and was witty enough through the interview. He did, however, mention that I would be taking over after an employee he had personally fired who had worked there 7 years. I found that odd, but ended up taking the job because of my passion. My first shift, I was assigned to work with the guy whose job I had taken. It was odd as hell. He was, however, rather cool about it. I will refer to him as Ben. Ben showed me the ropes and taught me a few good things. To this day, I swing by his new employment and buy some wine on his recommendation. On his last day, he told me to be wary of Boss and look out for myself. It caught me off guard as I hadn't really caught any red flags, besides Ben's firing, that is. As time went on, it became quite clear what he meant. Ben wasn't the only one he had fired. In fact, during the 6 months Boss had been there, he had fired 15 people, varying from cashiers to kitchen staff. I found out more than 5 people in addition to that had quit in that time. Boss's routine became clear too. He would lure you in, be charming and charismatic, even give you a small gift after your first few weeks. As soon as you're settled in, his demeanor changes. It went from heaven to hell during my first year. He would micromanage, to the point he would skip his own meetings just to circle the store and complain about people's work. He was convinced that everyone would omit from doing their job if he didn't keep watch. Just over my first year in, I am pretty drained. I love the job itself, and the coworkers are nice, but Boss is a living, walking psychopath. As time went on, his wording and his demeanor became more and more sinister. He would at times stalk me whenever I went from the store into our storage to ask, "What are you doing in here?" My answer always remained the same: doing my job. What else? Fast forward a few months and I am at rock bottom. I hate getting up in the morning, I hate going to work, and I hate my boss. One day I encounter the same issue I've done every day for months. I go into storage to place an order on the computer. He marches in and asks me what I am doing. I reply with a question, "What do you think I am doing?" He goes livid. He yells and shouts as I tell him he shouldn't talk to me that way, as calmly as I could, but honestly, I was shook by him. His response, "If you don't flipping like it, find another job, you flip." And so, that's exactly what I set out to do. In the meantime, I did call HR and announced that I was struck with stress due to workplace environment issues. I spent a week at home as I tried to regain my thoughts, my energy, and in general some peace and quiet. I also lined up 2 interviews by the end of the week. HR calls say they want to resolve everything. They more or less admit, off the record, that Boss is a special person to be around. They admit that I am not the first nor even the 5th case. They give me a possibility of staying on for another month, which suits me perfectly if I land a job elsewhere. Here comes the kicker. The company had a bakery shop elsewhere that they needed to close, but still had a rental contract on. They wanted someone to run a pop-up wine shop there. I would get away from Boss, and I was happy with that. The boss, however, had shipped out a flip ton of crappy wine without even asking my opinion on the stock or taking the size of the store into consideration. It was a cluster, to say the least. On the second week there, I get a call about one of the interviews I had been to. I landed the job. I was pretty stoked and looking forward to getting away from here. In the final week, there's plenty of crappy wine stacked up in the store. I am thinking about just how the flip all of this is gonna get moved out of here. Boss calls me up Tuesday, says that he'll send some quarter pallets and stretch wrap and everything has to be ready to go by Friday. He doesn't send this before late Wednesday, and to make matters worse, he sends me one roll of stretch wrap and by my count, too few pallets. I call him back, tell him I need 2 more rolls of wrap and some pallets, in which he proceeds to tell me to make do. I did call someone else at the store to try and make them send another stretch wrap. I never did get one, so I guess boss intercepted that plea as well. Time for malicious compliance. I spend all Thursday accommodating customers while zipping around packing pallet after pallet. One is stacked quite alarmingly higher than the other, while one is filmed with even fewer layers than the one before. Even a blind person could see just how poor of a job all this was. 43 quarter pallets to be exact, one even crappier stacked and filmed than the next. Oh, I may do. A truck pulls up out back Friday, and I keep hauling pallet after pallet out. The 2 guys assigned do not look pleased whatsoever. They can see just how hazardous this crap load is gonna be to drive with. They still manage to load it up without much hassle, but not without taking their time balancing every other pallet. I am pretty much in disbelief they even accepted to haul it at all. My shift, and thus my job, ends almost to the minute that they are done loading. I lock the place up, hand the keys to one of the guys, and head off into the sunset as I pleasantly await a call from my former boss. An hour creeps by and my phone rings. Boss is screaming and shouting at the other end about dozens upon dozens of shattered bottles and wine everywhere in the truck and on their loading bay, and what the flip was I even doing? I simply told him that I may do, and I ended the call. Story number 2, I'm on the hook for alcohol sales? Well, I won't open the store then. This didn't happen to me, but to a colleague, promoted to duty manager of the supermarket I worked in, but was on holiday from for 2 weeks. It's a small town and we're the only supermarket for miles. Therefore, we're inundated with people buying alcohol, with some of it for people under 18. In the UK, it's against the law to knowingly do so. At the time this occurred, the assistant making the sale could be fined up to £1,000 and the store could lose its license to sell alcohol. As always with retail, you're taking it from both sides, the customers and the company. Local police and counselors announced a crackdown on underage drinking, a good thing, by fining the parents, by fining the stores. The company decides to boost morale by backing its staff by making the most senior staff member culpable for any mishaps with disciplinary actions and possibly the sack. News of this happens whilst I'm on holiday. My friend, recently promoted to a very senior duty manager, to close down and lock up the store on an evening when alcohol sales are at their highest, pushes back against the new rule, obviously stating how unfair it is and that there should be training for staff, extra signage to warn customers, etc. Nothing. So he makes signs to put up in the store. Head office don't like it and demand they be taken down. So he demands to change his hours so that he's not responsible. Nothing. I got a text on the Friday evening from another colleague to say at the start of his shift, he closed the store. No alcohol sales equals no chance of being out. Since those in charge were tucked up in bed, news didn't hit them until the Monday morning after the store had closed at 6 p.m. instead of 10 p.m. for 3 days running. I arrived back in fresh on Monday morning to hear he'd been summoned up to head office for a meeting and had taken the union rep with him. He left a few months later. The store had increased signage warning of underage drinking, and all the staff received training on asking for ID. Funny that. This is John from Slash Bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to be the first to know when the next one drops, subscribe and make sure you click on the notifications bell. We would love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.